Chris, do you agree with CP3?
Maybe CP3 didn't watch a lot of basketball when he was
I don't
growing
think so.
up, you know, because I disagree. I love James Harden. I think he should have 2 MVP awards rather than 1. I voted for him in 2015, the first year Steph won it.
Right.
So I think he should have 2. He's a tremendous player, but there's no way I'm putting him ahead of Michael Jordan. And that's just one. I'm going to get to my second one later.
By the way, Chris grew up in
North Carolina.
North Carolina?
Right.
Huh,
right.
right. Isn't that? Oh, okay.
Well, he was born in, around 84 or something like that?
Yeah.
So he was a little tight
Yeah.
during Jordan's time. But no, Michael Jordan led the league in scoring 10 straight years, you know, that he played a full season.
That's 10-1 over LeBron, right?
Yeah. I think he led the league. Did he lead the league in scoring as a rookie?
Huh.
I think he led the
I
league.
don't know. He didn't. He didn't. He averaged
like
28.
28.
He came
yeah.
right in averaging
Yeah.
28. And here's what Chris Paul is overlooking. Number one, James Harden is not nearly as efficient overall as Michael Jordan. Now, his true shooting percentage is high and higher because of the free throws and the
three-point
three-pointers.
shot.
So it's hard to compare that to when Michael Jordan played because they weren't shooting threes like that. So that raises your true shooting percentage when you shoot threes. But from overall, James Harden's like a 44% shooter. Jordan was around 50%, over 50% for the early part of his career. So he's not nearly as efficient as Jordan. The second thing that Chris Paul's overlooking is the Mike D'Antoni factor. Mike D'Antoni is like performance-enhancing drugs for certain types of players. If you're a guy who can handle the ball, has court vision, sees the floor, and you're downhill, he's perfect. I contend that Steve Nash would not only have not won 2 MVP awards, he wouldn't be a future Hall of Famer if he had not hooked up with Mike
I will
D'Antoni.
agree with that.
No
Right?
question.
Yeah.
Okay. Chris Duhon, Ray Felton, Jeremy Lin, they all played their best basketball, incredible, like almost all-star level basketball under Mike D'Antoni. Harden went from 7 assists a game with Kevin McHale as his coach to 11 with D'Antoni. Chris Paul came in, so now it's back to about 8 or 9, but it would be at 11 if Chris Paul wasn't there. So I'm going to name another guy that I would put ahead of Harden. No, Steph Curry. If you put Steph Curry in D'Antoni's system, he might average 35 and 13 or something. The last year the ball was really in his hands was with Mark Jackson, whose offense wasn't as good as Mike D'Antoni's, but he ran the high pick and roll, all that. Steph averaged 24 and 8.5 assists. People think Steph's not a passer and all that. No, the offense doesn't call for that, but he's a great passer.
He is.
Yeah.
And obviously, I mean, the shooting I don't even have to talk about. So I would, at the very least, put Jordan and Steph ahead of Harden.
No, he's
You're not disagreeing with him. You're
No, I'm disagreeing with Chris Paul.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, if the officials let me take 5 steps like James Harden, I'll be the 5th best offensive player that Chris Paul has ever seen. That play the other night, that's ridiculous. The dude took 2 hops. He took 1 hop. He's like, oh, they ain't gonna call that one. I'm gonna take another hop. And then he sidestepped. And they called a foul on a 3-point shot. That's ridiculous. And then when he comes downhill, if you look at him like this, foul. I mean, this is ridiculous. Nobody has ever been officiated like James Harden. They give him calls. And another reason why we see him struggle sometimes, and he gets frustrated because they don't call it that tight in the playoffs.
Right.
And it's kind of like the Braves pitcher, Skip. You remember the Braves, they won all those division titles. And Tom Glavine, and Greg Maddux, they nibble. And they got those calls in the regular season. And come postseason time, they didn't give them those calls.
That is true.
And so now all of a sudden, you're like, well, what happened? Why can't they? Because they're not going to call it the same way.
Right.
First of all, Michael Jordan, no. It's not even close. As you mentioned, the 10 scoring titles. The dude, and he went 32, 8, and 8 one year.
35 one year.
37 and 37. Think about it.
On 48% shooting.
He's the GOAT.
Stop. See, there you go.
Well, you're making the case.
You know he is.
Every time I try to give him a compliment. I try to give Jordan a compliment. I really do. Because I love Mike. I love his shoes.
Yeah.
But then you
just wanna
ruin
get
it.
into that party next time.
What
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going. We go that. But,
Yeah, you're
so
going.
we just go poo-poo
Yeah.
Ron. 27, 7, and 7 on 50% shooting. On 50% shooting.
I'll give you that.
Now imagine
He's
Yeah.
far more efficient.
Yeah.
put him in D'Antoni's system and let him put him right those shooters. Like James Harden has.
Just let him be the point guard. Let him dribble the ball up the floor and make things happen.
Do what Harden does.
You know what makes James Harden like this? He's left-handed. And we've never seen a left-handed player be able to score the back, because most great scorers are right-handed. We've never seen there's not a top 10 scorer in the NBA history that's left-handed.
Manu Ginobili, but.
Man, I ain't even got nothing to say.
He could have been. Am I right?
He was awesome.
He was awesome. But he's not even a top 30 scorer in NBA history.
System.
You know
what's out of his hand. Sorry. That is true. He was spectacular.
Oh,
he's not. First of all,
no question.
He wasn't better than Sharunas Marciulionis.
Oh,
with that
please,
left
he
hand.
was too. Yes.
Man, you know
Ginobili?
Yes.
But Marciulionis was like
Ginobili was something special.
Hey, he was special.
Put Marciulionis in there with the Spurs and Timmy D.
Okay, so here's the point about James Harden. I have never seen a player in NBA history get protected, get assisted by the referees the way he does, and I don't understand how he earned that designation, that distinction, because he goes to the line just this year, 10.2 free throws per game.
A game.
It's outrageously too many, and half the calls are like, what? They're all this, all the three-point calls, and just he'll even drive it. And I'll say, nobody touched him, and they just blow the whistle. Yeah. Like he's earned the ultimate respect from the referees. He leads the NBA right now in turnovers by a landslide. He's 146. Trae Young is next at 118. And James missed 5 games, and he still has 146 turnovers.
Remember, he broke the record a few years ago?
Okay, but he's going to lead the league every year in turnovers.
Yes.
Don't the referees see that? Don't they they lose respect for him because of his turnovers? And to your point about the Braves pitchers in the postseason, they never came up small in the postseason, but James is capable. I don't know if Chris remembers this, but he's capable of just disappearing right on cue when you need him most.
Game 5.
Speaking of the Spurs,
yeah.
it was the closeout game. Game 6. Yeah, Game 6.
In his building.
In his building, and this is 2 years ago, and the final score is 114-75 at Houston. There's no number 2 for San Antonio, and there's no Tony Parker for San Antonio. And James Harden plays 37 minutes and scores 10 points with 6 turnovers. He fouled out. He was 2 for 11 from the field and 2 for 9 from 3. And even last year, remember in those games 6 and 7, they had Golden State down 3-2. Yep. And in the last 2 games, I know there was no Chris Paul. He pulled his hamstring. But James was a combined 6 for 25 in games 6 and 7. From 3, with 14 turnovers, 7 and 7, and he was a minus 32. Well, this isn't the greatest offensive player ever. You have to do it when it matters, right?
And you didn't even mention a few years ago against Golden State.
Yeah. Oh, it was horrendous. So you can't. And again, Chris is trying to boost his teammates.
But I ain't gonna just sit there and lie.
And the interesting thing is Chris Paul is so protective with the basketball. Like, he's a low turnover guy. Right. His assist-to-turnover ratio is always great. And as you said, Harden is just throwing the ball all over the place. Now, it was totally about boosting his teammate.
Look, is he spectacular with the ball?
Yeah.
When he has his dribble at the top of the circle, like he's doing this? It's almost unguardable, right?
Yeah,
especially when the ref's on his
crafty.
side.
Yeah.
He is
and
really crafty.
Because he can handle the ball. Because you got to push up on him. Because if you don't push up on him, he's going to step back and raise up and shoot the 3 on you. And then if you got your hands out, he's just going to bring the ball through your hands, and they're going to give him 3 free throws. Yep. So what do you do? Because we saw LeBron and them start putting their hands behind their back because, we can't do anything. Yeah. And he is unguardable. If you do not let them body him, if every time they stick their hands out, he brings the ball through and they call it, well, no, and you're going to let him take 5 steps.
See, and the thing is, he's not big enough like LeBron, where LeBron's so big that they allow contact with him and don't call it.
Right.
He's average size, at least height-wise, for NBA, so they give him
He's
that.
not as physical as Russ is.
Right.
He doesn't have that kind of upper body physicality.
Right.
Hey, if James had played back in the Jordan era, he would have had a hard time.
And everything like he's got shot. I mean, every 5
years. Well, he's mastered that. He's mastered that. Looking like there's contact and it's like flopping. Yeah. That's what he does, and he'll
shoot the 3 and then fall down. Like, dude, with nobody around you, what you falling for?
Because it works.
Right.